Admiral Jack Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the stars. His gray hair was cut short, and his weathered face showed the marks of 30 years in space. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of computers. Jack had fought pirates, rebels, and worse things in the dark between stars. But today felt different. His ship, the UES Defiance, was the biggest warship in the human fleet. It was 3 miles long and carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Around him, 11 other ships moved through space like a pack of metal wolves. This was the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet, and Jack was proud to command it. "Sir, we have a message from Earth," said Captain Lisa Barnes. She was younger than Jack, with sharp eyes and quick hands. Lisa had been his best student at the War College. Now she was his right hand in battle. "Put it on screen," Jack said. The main display lit up with the face of General Patricia Cole. She sat behind her desk at Earth Command, wearing her dark blue uniform with 5 silver stars. Her expression was serious. "Admiral Morrison," she began, "you know why you're here. The Corvan Empire has attacked Kepler 442b. They killed thousands of people, men, women, and children who never hurt anyone." Jack's jaw tightened. He had read the reports. The Corvans were 7 feet tall with gray skin and yellow eyes. They believed they were better than all other races. They took what they wanted and killed anyone who stood in their way. "The Galactic Council has made its decision," General Cole continued. "They want us to send 1 fleet to deal with this problem. They think 12 ships will be enough to make the Corvans stop." Behind Jack, the bridge crew exchanged glances. Commander Ryan Mitchell, the chief engineer, shook his head. Ryan was a big man with oil-stained hands who could fix anything that broke. He had seen enough war to know that 12 ships might not be enough. "The Council thinks this is a police action," General Cole said. "They don't understand what we're really dealing with. The Corvans have taken 6 worlds in the past year. They're not going to stop because we ask nicely." Dr. Elena Rodriguez moved closer to the screen. She was a scientist who studied alien life, but she also advised Jack on dealing with other races. Elena was smart and careful, and she saw things others missed. "What are our real orders, General?" Elena asked. General Cole smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "Your real orders are simple. Stop the Corvans. Save the people on Kepler 442b. Show the galaxy what happens when someone attacks innocent humans." Jack nodded. He understood. The Council thought 1 fleet was enough. They didn't know what they were asking for. "There's something else," General Cole said. "Something the Council doesn't know. We're not just sending 1 fleet." The bridge went completely quiet. Even the computer sounds seemed to stop. "Sir?" Lisa asked. "We're sending 11 fleets," General Cole said. "The other 10 are already moving into position. They'll arrive when you need them most." Jack felt his heart beat faster. 11 fleets meant over 400 ships. It meant the biggest Space Force humans had ever assembled. "The Council asked for 1 fleet," General Cole continued. "We're giving them 1 fleet. The other 10? Well, they just happen to be in the neighborhood." Commander Mitchell grinned. He understood the plan now. The humans would look like they were following orders, but when the real fighting started, they would show their true strength. "The Corvans think humans are weak," General Cole said. "They think we're just another small race that will run away when things get hard. They're about to learn how wrong they are." The screen went dark. Jack looked around his bridge at his crew. These were good people. They had families back on Earth and the colonies. They joined the fleet to protect those families. "Set course for Kepler 442b, Jack ordered. "Maximum speed." "Yes, sir," said the pilot. The Defiance turned toward the distant star system. Around it, the other ships of the 3rd Fleet followed. They looked like any normal patrol group. Nobody watching would guess they were the first wave of the largest military operation in human history. Jack walked to the big window at the front of the bridge. Space stretched out before them, black and full of stars. Somewhere out there, people were dying. Corvan ships were dropping bombs on cities and shooting at anyone who tried to run. "Sir?" Lisa said quietly. "Do you think it will work?" Jack thought about it. The plan was risky. If the other fleets arrived too late, his 12 ships would face the entire Corvan armada alone. If they arrived too early, The Corvins might run away before the humans could finish them. It will work, Jack said. It has to work. Dr. Rodriguez joined them at the window. The Galactic Council has been wrong about humans before, she said. They think we're just another species that wants to trade and make friends. They don't understand that we'll fight for what's right. Ryan Mitchell laughed from his station. They're about to get an education. Jack smiled. His crew was ready. His ship was ready. And somewhere in the dark, 10 more fleets were moving toward the same destination. The Corvins had made a big mistake. They thought they could kill humans and nothing would happen. They thought the galaxy would just watch and do nothing. They were wrong. The UES Defiance and its escorts jumped to faster than light speed. Behind them, Earth grew smaller until it was just another star. Ahead of them waited battle, victory, and a new future for humanity among the stars. But the Corvins didn't know that yet. Soon, they would learn what it meant to attack humans. Soon, they would understand that when you hurt innocent people, humanity doesn't send just one fleet. Humanity sends 11. Captain Steve Adams stood in the dark control room of his ship, the UES Shadow. Unlike other human warships, the Shadow was built for hiding. Its black hull absorbed light and radar. Special engines made almost no heat. When the Shadow wanted to disappear, even the best sensors couldn't find it. Steve was a thin man with quiet eyes. He had spent 15 years learning how to hunt enemies who didn't know he was there. Today, his job was to watch and wait while Admiral Morrison's fleet traveled through Council space. "Sir, we're getting reports from the other hidden fleets," said Lieutenant Kate Wilson. She was young and eager, one of the best fighter pilots in the human Navy. But today she wasn't flying. Today she was helping Steve track 9 other fleets as they moved through secret routes toward Corvin space. "Show me," Steve said. The main screen lit up with a map of the galaxy. Green dots showed where human fleets were supposed to be. Red dots showed where they really were. Admiral Morrison's 3rd Fleet moved openly along the trade routes, just like the Council expected, but the other fleets were taking longer paths through empty space. Admiral Chris Taylor's 7th Fleet was moving through the asteroid fields near Vega. The rocks would hide their heat signatures from any watchers. Admiral Susan Parker's 1st Fleet had split into small groups that looked like merchant ships. They would come together only when the fighting started. "How long until they're all in position?" Steve asked. Kate checked her computers. 18 hours for the closest fleet, 36 hours for the farthest. Steve nodded. The timing had to be perfect. If the hidden fleets arrived too early, the Corvins might detect them and run away. If they arrived too late, Admiral Morrison's 12 ships would be destroyed. "Any word from Earth Command?" "General Cole sent an update," Kate said. "The Council is happy with our response. They think sending 1 fleet shows that humans are responsible but not aggressive." Steve almost laughed. The Council had no idea what was really happening. They thought humans had maybe 50 warships total. The truth was that humanity had been building ships in secret for 5 years. After first contact with the Zephyrians, human leaders had made a decision. They would join the Galactic Council and learn everything they could about alien technology, but they would also prepare for war. Earth's factories had worked day and night. Asteroid mines produced metal faster than ever before. Shipyards were built in hidden locations throughout human space. The best human engineers studied alien ship designs and made them better. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from Admiral Morrison's fleet," Kate said. The screen changed to show the bridge of the UES Defiance. Admiral Morrison looked tired but determined. Behind him, Steve could see Captain Lisa Barnes working at her station. "Steve, we've had our first contact with Corvin scouts," Morrison said. 3 of their ships tried to block our path near the Tau Ceti system. "What happened?" Steve asked. Morrison smiled grimly. "It was over in 10 minutes. Their shields couldn't stop our new plasma cannons. Their ships couldn't outrun our missiles. I don't think they sent a message before we destroyed them." This was good news. The Corvins still didn't know how strong human ships really were. They thought humans used the same old technology as everyone else in the Council. "We'll reach Kepler 442b in 6 hours," Morrison continued. The refugees we've talked to say the Corvins have at least 30 ships in the system. They're using the planet's cities for target practice. Steve felt anger rise in his chest. The Corvins didn't just conquer worlds. They enjoyed hurting people who couldn't fight back. "Steve, I need you to get closer to the system," Morrison said. "Use the Shadow's sensors to count enemy ships. I want to know exactly what we're facing." "Understood," Steve replied. "We'll be there in 4 hours." The transmission ended. Steve turned to his crew. The Shadow carried only 50 people, but they were all specialists. They could gather information, hunt enemy ships, or rescue people from planets under attack. "Set course for Kepler 442b, Steve ordered. "Silent running. I don't want anything bigger than a space rock to detect us." The Shadow changed direction and increased speed. Its special engines pushed it forward without making heat or light. To any watching sensors, the ship would look like a piece of space junk drifting between stars. Lieutenant Wilson brought Steve a report from Human Intelligence. "Sir, we've been listening to Corvin communications. They're not just attacking random planets, they're looking for something." "What kind of something?" "Ancient ruins. The kind left behind by the precursor race." Steve frowned. The precursors had lived in the galaxy millions of years ago. They had built amazing technology before they disappeared. Sometimes their ruins were found on old worlds, but most of their secrets were still hidden. "The Corvins think precursor technology will make them unstoppable," Wilson continued. "That's why they're conquering so many worlds. They're searching for specific ruins." This made the situation more dangerous. If the Corvins found working precursor technology, they might become powerful enough to threaten the entire galaxy. "Send this information to Admiral Morrison," Steve said, "and pass it along to the other fleet commanders. They need to know what we're really fighting for." The Shadow raced through space toward the battle zone. Around the galaxy, 10 other human fleets moved through the darkness. Each fleet had been training for this moment. Each crew knew that they were about to change galactic history. Captain Tony Rivera commanded a squadron of new destroyers with the 4th Fleet. His ships were faster and stronger than anything the aliens had seen. Colonel Beth Hamilton led Marine units aboard the 6th Fleet carriers. Her soldiers were ready to fight on planets or space stations. All of these fleets had one thing in common. They were hidden from the Galactic Council. The Council's leaders thought they understood human military power. They were wrong. Steve looked at the star map again. In a few hours, the Shadow would reach Kepler 442b and see the Corvin forces with its own sensors. Admiral Morrison would begin the attack with his 12 ships, and then the Corvins would learn what happened when they attacked human civilians. "Sir, we're receiving reports from refugee ships," Wilson said. "There are thousands of people trying to escape the planet, human colonists and Zephyrian refugees. The Corvins are shooting at the escape pods." Steve's hands clenched into fists. The Corvins weren't just conquering territory. They were committing genocide. They were killing anyone who wasn't strong enough to fight back. "How long until the other fleets arrive?" he asked. "The fastest will be there in 22 hours, Wilson replied. 22 hours. Admiral Morrison would have to hold out against superior numbers for almost a full day. His 12 ships would face whatever the Corvins could throw at them. But Steve knew something the Corvins didn't. Human ships were built for war. Human crews trained for impossible battles, and humanity never abandoned its people. The Shadow flew through the void toward Kepler 442b. Behind it, 9 hidden fleets followed secret paths through space. The largest military operation in human history was about to begin. The Corvins had made their choice. Now they would face the consequences. War Commander Thexval stood 7 feet tall on the bridge of his flagship Bone Crusher. His gray skin was marked with ritual scars that showed his victories in battle. His yellow eyes watched the planet Kepler 442b burn below. The Corvins had been bombing the human cities for 3 days. Thexval enjoyed watching the explosions light up the planet's surface. These weak creatures thought they could resist the Corvin Empire. They were learning how wrong they were. "War Commander," said Sub-Commander Krex, his aide. "Our scouts report human ships approaching the system." Thexval turned from the window. Krex was smaller than him, but clever. He planned the attacks while Thexval led the fighting. "How many ships?" Thexval asked. 12, War Commander, 1 large vessel and 11 smaller ones. Thexval laughed. The sound was like grinding metal. 12 ships? The humans send 12 ships against our 30? They must be even weaker than we thought. The Corvin fleet filled the space around Kepler 442b. Their ships were built like weapons, with sharp edges and dark metal hulls. Each one carried enough firepower to level a city. Thexval had used this fleet to conquer 6 worlds in the past year. Should we prepare for battle? Krex asked. Yes, Thexval said, but do not destroy them too quickly. I want the galaxy to see what happens when someone challenges the Corvin Empire. Admiral Morrison's 3rd Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler system. Immediately, the human ships spread out in attack formation. The UES Defiance led the charge, its massive weapons already charging for battle. Sir, we count 30 Corvin ships around the planet, Captain Barnes reported. Most of them are focused on bombing the surface. Only 6 are in defensive positions. Admiral Morrison studied the tactical display. The Corvins had made a mistake. They were so busy attacking defenseless cities that they hadn't prepared for a real fight. Target the ships bombing the civilian areas first, Morrison ordered. We'll worry about their main force after we stop the massacre. The human fleet accelerated toward the planet. Their ships were smaller than the Corvin vessels, but they moved like hunting cats. Human engines were more efficient. Human weapons were more accurate, and human crews had trained for exactly this kind of battle. Sir, the Corvins are finally responding, Barnes said. They're moving to intercept us. Let them come, Morrison replied. The first shots came from the Corvin ships. Bright energy beams reached across space toward the human fleet, but the beams hit nothing. The human ships were too fast and too agile. Captain Danny Foster commanded the destroyer UES Vigilant. His ship was one of the newest in the human fleet, built with lessons learned from studying alien technology. When the Corvin beams missed him, Danny smiled. Return fire, he ordered. The Vigilant's plasma cannon spoke. Blue-white energy struck a Corvin bomber directly on its bridge. The alien ship's shields flashed once and then collapsed. The plasma beam punched through the hull like it was made of paper. The Corvin ship exploded in a ball of fire and debris. On the Bone Crusher, War Commander Thexval watched one of his ships die. His yellow eyes widened in surprise. Human weapons weren't supposed to be that powerful. How did they do that? He demanded. Sub-Commander Krex checked his sensors. War Commander, the human weapons are using a plasma frequency we've never seen before. Our shields can't stop them. Thexval felt a cold touch of fear. The Corvins had conquered 6 worlds because their enemies couldn't break through Corvin shields. If the humans had found a way around that defense, everything changed. Order all ships to attack formation, he commanded. Destroy the humans now. But the human fleet was already moving. They didn't fight like other species. Instead of forming a battle line and trading shots, they split into small groups and attacked from different directions. Commander Amy Clark aboard the UES Defiance watched her screens as the battle developed. She was the fleet's intelligence officer, and her job was to gather information about enemy capabilities. What she saw amazed her. Sir, the Corvin ships are slower than we expected, she reported to Admiral Morrison. Their turn rate is terrible. We can fly circles around them. Morrison nodded. Human ship designers had studied every species in the galaxy. They had built ships that were faster and more agile than anything else in space. The destroyer UES Vigilant swooped past a Corvin cruiser, firing as it went. The cruiser tried to turn and follow, but it was too slow. By the time its weapons swung around, Danny Foster's ship was gone. Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked at her station, coordinating rescue operations. Sir, we're picking up escape pods from the planet. Thousands of people are trying to get away from the bombing. Launch all rescue ships, Morrison ordered. Get those people to safety. Small human ships raced toward the planet, dodging Corvin fire as they collected refugee pods. The Corvins tried to shoot at the defenseless civilians, but human fighters drove them away. Lieutenant Kate Wilson flew one of those fighters. Her ship was so fast that Corvin gunners couldn't track it. She dove between the enemy vessels, her weapons flashing as she protected the rescue ships. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, 24 Corvin ships were destroyed or disabled. The human fleet had lost only 1 ship, and most of its crew had been rescued. War Commander Thexval stared at the wreckage floating around his flagship. Half of his fleet was gone. The humans had fought like nothing he had ever seen before. War Commander. Sub-Commander Krex said quietly. We're receiving a transmission from the main fleet. They're asking for a status report. Thexval closed his yellow eyes. He would have to tell his superiors that 30 Corvan ships had been defeated by 12 human vessels. They would not be pleased. Tell them we need reinforcements, he said. Tell them the humans are stronger than we thought. On the UES Defiance, Admiral Morrison received a message from the Galactic Council. They were congratulating him on his quick victory and asking when the Corvans would surrender. Morrison almost laughed. The Council had no idea what was really happening. This wasn't the end of the fight, this was just the beginning. Commander Clark brought him a report. Sir, we've intercepted Corvan communications. Thexval is calling for backup. The main Corvan armada is on its way here. How many ships? Morrison asked. 200, sir. Maybe more. Morrison looked around his bridge. His crew had fought brilliantly, but they were still just 12 ships. Even with their advantages, they couldn't fight 200 enemies at once. How long until they arrive? He asked. 6 hours, Clark replied. 6 hours. Morrison's fleet would have to hold this system against impossible odds. But he had faith in his people, and he had faith in the plan. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, 10 hidden fleets were racing toward Kepler 4 and 42b. They would arrive just when the Corvans thought they had won. Morrison smiled. The Corvans were about to learn what it really meant to fight humanity. All ships prepare for defensive positions, he ordered. The real battle is about to begin. The Corvan main armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel like a storm made of metal and death. 200 ships filled the space around Kepler 442b, their dark hulls blotting out the stars. At their center was the massive dreadnought Worldbreaker, flagship of the Corvan High Command. War Commander Thexval stood on his damaged bridge and felt relief wash over him. The main fleet had arrived. Now the humans would pay for their tricks. Admiral Morrison watched the enemy ships appear on his screens. His small fleet was positioned near the planet, protecting the civilian evacuation ships. 12 human vessels. Against 200 Corvan warships, the odds were hopeless. Sir, Captain Barnes said quietly, should we retreat? Morrison shook his head. We hold position. Those people down there are counting on us. On the planet's surface, thousands of humans and Zephyrians were still trapped in the burning cities. The Corvan bombardment had stopped when the main fleet arrived, but it would start again once they dealt with Morrison's ships. The Corvan fleet commander was Admiral Vexthor, a massive creature even by Corvan standards. His scarred hide told the story of 50 battles across the galaxy. He had never lost a fight. Humans, Vexthor's voice boomed across all communication channels. You have interfered with Corvan expansion for the last time. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick. Admiral Morrison activated his own transmitter. This is Admiral Jack Morrison of the United Earth Navy. You are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately. This is your only warning. Vexthor's laughter echoed through space. You warn us? 12 ships against 200? You humans are even more foolish than we believed. We'll see about that, Morrison replied. The Corvan fleet began to move into attack formation. Their plan was simple. Surround the human ships and destroy them with overwhelming firepower. Then they would finish burning the planet. Morrison's fleet spread out in a defensive sphere around the evacuation zone. Each human ship was outnumbered 20-1, but they had advantages the Corvans didn't know about. Sir, all ships report ready, Barnes said. Remember the plan, Morrison told his captains. Fight smart, not hard, make every shot count, and, whatever happens, protect those evacuation ships. The first Corvan attack began. Energy beams and missiles filled the space around the human fleet. The UES Defiance shook as enemy fire struck its shields. Warning lights flashed on the bridge. Commander Ryan Mitchell worked at his engineering station, rerouting power to keep the shields strong. Sir, we can't take this kind of punishment for long, he shouted over the noise of combat. Morrison nodded. His fleet was giving ground, pulling back toward the planet. It looked like they were being driven into retreat. But this was part of the plan. Captain Tony Rivera commanded 3 destroyers from the 3rd Fleet. His ships darted between the larger Corvan vessels, their weapons flashing as they struck weak points in enemy armor. The Corvans tried to follow, but their ships were too slow. Dr. Rodriguez coordinated the defense from her station. "Sir, the evacuation is 60% complete. We need 20 more minutes." 20 minutes. Morrison's fleet had to survive 20 more minutes against impossible odds. The Corvan ships pressed closer. Admiral Vexthor was confident now. The humans fought well, but numbers always won in the end. Soon he would add Earth to the list of worlds conquered by the Corvan Empire. "Concentrate fire on their flagship," he ordered. "Once their admiral is dead, the rest will surrender." 50 Corvan ships turned their weapons toward the UES Defiance. Energy beams reached across space like the fingers of death. Just as the killing blow was about to fall, space itself seemed to explode. The first ship to arrive was the UES Thunder, flagship of Admiral Susan Parker's 1st Fleet. It dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly behind the Corvan formation, its massive guns already firing. Then came the 2nd Fleet, then the 4th, then the 5th. One by one, 9 hidden human fleets materialized around the Kepler system. Ship after ship appeared until the stars were hidden by human hulls. 400 vessels strong, carrying the finest weapons, and crews that Earth could build. Admiral Vexthor stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Where had all these ships come from? The humans were supposed to have a tiny fleet. This was impossible. "War Commander Thexaval," he called on the communicator. "You told me the humans only sent 12 ships." "They did," Thexaval replied, his voice confused. "I don't understand this." Admiral Morrison's voice filled the communication channels, broadcast to every ship in the system. "This is Admiral Morrison to all Corvan forces. You wanted to know why we only sent 1 fleet. Here's your answer. We sent 1 fleet because 1 fleet was enough. The other 10? They're just here to make sure you understand the message." The human fleets moved into attack formation with perfect coordination. Each fleet had its specialty. The 1st Fleet carried the heaviest weapons. The 7th Fleet had the fastest ships. The 9th Fleet was filled with carriers launching clouds of fighters. Captain Steve Adams brought the UES Shadow out of hiding near the planet. His stealth ship had been watching the entire battle, feeding information to the arriving fleets. "Admiral Morrison," Steve reported, "all fleets are in position. We have complete tactical superiority." Morrison smiled. "All human ships, this is your admiral. These aliens thought they could attack our people and face no consequences. Let's show them how wrong they were." The largest space battle in galactic history began. Human plasma cannons lit up the darkness. Missiles streaked between ships like deadly fireworks. The Corvan fleet, which had seemed so powerful moments before, was suddenly trapped in the middle of a human hurricane. Admiral Parker's 1st Fleet attacked from above. Admiral Taylor's 7th Fleet struck from below. The other fleets surrounded the enemy formation, cutting off any chance of escape. The Corvans fought back desperately. Their ships were tough and their crews were experienced. But they were facing something they had never encountered before: humanity at war. Colonel Beth Hamilton led Marine assault teams from the 6th Fleet. Her soldiers boarded damaged Corvan ships and captured them from the inside. The aliens had never faced human Marines in close combat. They learned quickly that humans were just as deadly with rifles as they were with starships. Lieutenant Kate Wilson flew her fighter through the battle, protecting human bombers as they struck Corvan command ships. Her squadron moved like a school of fish, impossible to catch and deadly to encounter. The battle raged for 2 hours. When it was over, 70% of the Corvan fleet was destroyed or captured. The rest, including Admiral Vexthor's flagship, limped away into deep space. War Commander Thexval found himself a prisoner aboard the UES Defiance. As human Marines escorted him to the brig, he saw Admiral Morrison waiting in the corridor. "How?" Thexval asked. "How did you hide so many ships?" Morrison looked at the defeated alien commander. "We didn't hide them. We just didn't tell you about them." "There's a difference." President William Carter appeared on screens throughout the human fleet. His message was broadcast to every world in the galaxy. Citizens of Earth and the colonies, he began. Today, humanity has spoken with one voice. We will not tolerate genocide in our galaxy. We will not stand by while innocent people are murdered. Any species that targets civilians will face the full might of Earth's military. The message continued to broadcast as human rescue ships flew down to Kepler 442b. The planet's cities were damaged, but not destroyed. Most of the civilians had survived. Dr. Rodriguez worked with refugee coordinators to help the survivors. Many of them were Zephyrians who had fled other Corvan attacks. They looked at the human rescuers with wonder and gratitude. "You came for us," one elderly Zephyrian said to Elena. "Even though we're not your people, you came." Elena smiled. "All innocent people are our people." Admiral Morrison stood on his bridge and watched the human fleets take control of the system. The Galactic Council would be shocked when they learned what had really happened here. They thought they understood human military power. They were wrong. Commander Clark brought him a report. "Sir, we're receiving surrender offers from 12 different Corvan worlds. Word of the battle is spreading fast." Morrison nodded. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had revealed its true strength and the balance of power had shifted forever. But with great power came great responsibility. Earth would have to decide what kind of galactic neighbor it wanted to be. The battle was over. The real work was just beginning. 3 weeks after the Battle of Kepler 442b, Ambassador Richard Young walked into the Galactic Council chambers. The massive hall could hold representatives from 1,000 worlds, but today it felt small and tense. Every alien eye followed him as he moved to the human seat. Richard was a tall man with gray hair and steady hands. He had been Earth's voice in the galaxy for 10 years. Today would be the most important speech of his career. High Counselor Vexna, of the Nexari Collective, called the emergency session to order. Her blue skin was pale with shock, and her 4 arms trembled slightly. The Nexari prided themselves on knowing everything that happened in the galaxy. The human fleet revelation had shaken them badly. "Ambassador Young," Vexna began, "the Council demands an explanation. You told us humanity had a small defense force. Instead, we discover you have the largest military in galactic history." Trade Master Zilthar of the Zephyrian Confederation leaned forward in his chair. His people owed their lives to the human rescue at Kepler 442b. The Zephyrians are grateful for human intervention, but we also have questions about these hidden fleets. Richard stood slowly. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the air recycling systems seemed to hold their breath. "Honored counselors," Richard began, "humanity has never lied to this body. When you asked about our military capabilities, we answered honestly. We told you about our patrol fleets and our defense forces. You never asked about our full industrial capacity. You never asked how many ships we could build in an emergency." Counselor Bextel of the Hegemony World spoke up. His insect-like voice buzzed with anger. "You deceived us. You made us believe humans were weak." "No," Richard replied firmly. "You assumed we were weak. You saw that we preferred trade to war and you decided that meant we couldn't fight. You were wrong." Admiral Morrison sat in the observers section watching the debate. Beside him, Captain Barnes took notes on alien reactions. The military leaders were here to answer technical questions, but this was mainly a political discussion. Dr. Rodriguez sat with the refugee representatives. Hundreds of survivors from Corvan attacks had come to give testimony about alien war crimes. Their stories had shocked even the hardened diplomats. "The real question," Richard continued, "is not why humanity built these fleets. The real question is why nobody stopped the Corvans sooner." He activated a holographic display showing the Corvan expansion over the past 5 years. Red markers showed conquered worlds. White markers showed destroyed civilizations. 17 species have been wiped out completely, Richard said. Billions of innocent people killed while the Council debated and delayed. Humanity decided we would not let this continue. High Counselor Vexna looked uncomfortable. The Council follows proper procedures. We cannot act without evidence and debate. While you debated, people died, Richard replied. While you demanded evidence, children were murdered. Humanity chose action over procedure. Commander Ryan Mitchell watched from the engineering section. He had helped design many of the human ships that shocked the galaxy. Now he was working with alien engineers to share some human technology for peaceful purposes. Captain Steve Adams sat with the intelligence officers. His stealth ship had gathered evidence of Corvan war crimes across dozens of worlds. The evidence was overwhelming and horrible. Ambassador Young, said Counselor Thexanol of the Outer Reaches, what does humanity want? You have the strongest fleet in the galaxy. Will you use it to conquer us? Richard smiled sadly. Counselor, if humanity wanted to conquer the galaxy, would we be sitting here talking? We could have attacked your worlds instead of liberating Corvan victims. We could have demanded tribute instead of offering aid. He gestured to the refugee section. Look around you. Human ships are bringing food and medicine to every world the Corvans attacked. Human engineers are helping rebuild destroyed cities. Human doctors are treating wounded aliens they've never seen before. Does this look like conquest to you? Trademaster Zilthar stood up. The Zephyrian Confederation formally recognizes humanity's right to defend innocent life. We request a mutual defense agreement with Earth. The hegemony seconds this motion, Counselor Bextal said, surprising everyone. The humans have proven they fight for justice, not territory. One by one, representatives from smaller worlds stood to support humanity. These were the species that lived in fear of stronger neighbors. They saw human military power as protection, not threat. But the larger powers were more cautious. The Nexari and their allies worried about human dominance. They had controlled galactic politics for centuries. Now they faced a species that could challenge them. What guarantees do we have? High Counselor Vexna asked. How do we know humanity won't use its fleets against council members? Richard looked directly at her. You have the same guarantee you had before. Our word. Humanity joined this council to build a better galaxy. That hasn't changed. What has changed is our ability to defend that vision. Admiral Morrison was called to testify about human military capabilities. He walked to the speaker's platform and faced the assembled aliens. Counselors, he began. My fleets have one mission, to protect innocent life. We will fight pirates, slavers, and genocidal empires. We will not fight peaceful species even if they disagree with us. But what if we don't want your protection? Asked a representative from the Rim territories. Morrison shrugged. Then you won't get it. Humanity doesn't force help on anyone, but we also won't stand by while mass murder happens in our neighborhood. Captain Barnes presented evidence from the Corvan archives. Human intelligence had recovered files from captured ships, revealing the true scope of Corvan plans. They weren't just conquering random worlds, she explained. They were searching for precursor technology. They believed ancient weapons would make them unstoppable. If they had found what they were looking for, every species in this chamber would be in danger. This revelation caused an uproar. Precursor technology was incredibly dangerous. The ancient race had destroyed themselves with their own weapons millions of years ago. Dr. Rodriguez took the platform to discuss post-war reconstruction. Humanity is prepared to share medical technology and agricultural techniques with all Corvan victims. We're also offering educational exchanges to help prevent future conflicts. What about the Corvans themselves? Asked Counselor Vexna. Will you exterminate them? No, Elena replied. War Commander Thexaval and his officers will face trial for war crimes. But the Corvan people will be offered a chance to join the galactic community as peaceful citizens. Humanity believes in redemption, not revenge. The debate continued for 3 days. In the end, the Council voted to accept humanity's actions at Kepler 442b. They also passed new laws making genocide a crime punishable by military intervention. But the real changes happened outside the Council chambers. Smaller species began requesting human protection. Trade agreements were signed between Earth and dozens of worlds. Human technology started spreading throughout the galaxy. Admiral Morrison stood on the observation deck of Kepler Station, a new human outpost built to protect the liberated system. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see human and alien ships working together to rebuild the damaged planet. Captain Barnes joined him at the window. "Sir, do you think we did the right thing?" Morrison watched a human medical ship dock with a Zephyrian refugee transport. "Ask me in 10 years. If the galaxy is more peaceful and the weak are protected, then yes. If we just replaced one empire with another, then no." Colonel Beth Hamilton was training alien Marines in human combat techniques. Her soldiers were teaching former enemies how to defend their own worlds. It was a strange sight, but it gave Morrison hope. Lieutenant Kate Wilson had been promoted to squadron commander. She was leading joint patrols with alien pilots, hunting down the remaining Corvan raiders. The partnership was working better than anyone expected. A message arrived from Earth. President Carter was announcing the creation of the Galactic Protection Fleet, a joint human-alien force dedicated to preventing future genocides. Admiral Morrison would command the new fleet. "It's not what I expected when I joined the Navy," Morrison told Barnes. "I thought I'd fight human wars on human worlds. Instead, I'm protecting aliens I'd never heard of 5 years ago." Barnes smiled. "Maybe that's what makes us human, sir. We fight for people we've never met because it's the right thing to do." Morrison nodded. The galaxy was changing. Old alliances were shifting. New threats would emerge. But for the first time in centuries, the weak had protectors and the innocent had champions. War Commander Thexaval sat in his cell aboard the prison ship UES Justice. Through his small window, he could see human engineers helping to repair Corvan worlds. The humans were keeping their promise to help even their former enemies. He didn't understand these creatures. They had the power to rule the galaxy, but they chose to serve it instead. They could have taken revenge, but they offered forgiveness. It was completely alien to the Corvan way of thinking. Maybe that was why they had won on Earth. General Patricia Cole stood in the war room, looking at star charts that showed human fleets patrolling throughout the galaxy. The secret was out now. Humanity was no longer hiding its strength, ma'am, her aide said. "We're receiving requests for protection from 47 different worlds. How should we respond?"